St. John's Co-Cathedral, located in Valletta, Malta, was built by the Knights of Malta between 1573 and 1578. Having been commissioned in 1572 by Grand Master Jean de la Cazière as the conventual church of the Order of the Knights Hospitaller of St. John, known as the Knights of Malta. The church was designed by the Maltese military architect Glaur Mukasa, who designed several of the more prominent buildings in Valletta, with interior decoration by Mattia Preta. The church is considered to be one of the finest examples of high Baroque architecture in Europe and one of the world's great cathedrals. Facade. The severe exterior of the cathedral, built immediately after the ending of the Great Siege of 1565, is reminiscent of a military fort. Interior. The interior, in sharp contrast with the facade, is extremely ornate and decorated in the height of the Baroque period. The interior was largely decorated by Mattia Preta, the Calabrian artist and knight. Preta designed the intricate carved stone walls and painted the vaulted ceiling and side altars with scenes from the life of St. John. Interestingly, the figures painted into the ceiling next to each column initially appear to the viewer as three-dimensional statues, but on closer inspection we see that the artist cleverly created an illusion of three-dimensionality by his use of shadows and placement. Also noteworthy is the fact that the carving was all undertaken in place rather than being carved independently and then attached to the walls. The Maltese limestone from which the cathedral is built lends itself particularly well to such intricate carving. The whole marble floor is an entire series of tombs, housing about 375 knights and officers of the order. There is also a crypt containing the tombs of Grand Masters like Philippe Villiers de l'Isle Adam, Claude de la Sengle, Jean Parisot de Valette, and Alof de Wignacourt. In 1666, a project for the main altar by Malta's greatest sculptor, Melchiorre Cafa, was approved and begun. Cafa intended a large sculpture group in bronze depicting the baptism of Christ. Following Cafa's tragical death in 1667 in a foundry accident while working on this work in Rome, the plans were abandoned. Only in 1703, Giuseppe Mazzuoli, Cafa's only pupil, finished a marble group of the baptism of Christ which might have been influenced by his master's undocumented designs but certainly is strongly dependent on a small baptism group by Alessandro Algardi. Near the main entrance one finds the funerary monument of Grand Master Fra Marci Antonio Zondardari of Siena. He was the nephew of Pope Alexander VII. Chapels. The cathedral contains 8 rich chapels, each of which was dedicated to the patron saint of the 8 Langs of the Knights. On the left side of the church there are the following chapels. The Chapel of the Anglo-Bavarian Lang was formerly known as the Chapel of the Relic, where the knights used to keep relics that they have acquired through the centuries. The Chapel of Provence is dedicated to Saint Michael. The Chapel of France is dedicated to the conversion of Saint Paul. This chapel was modified in the 19th century. The monuments found in this chapel are those of Grand Masters Fra Adrian de Wignacourt and Fra Emmanuel de Rohan-Polduc. The Chapel of Italy, dedicated to Saint Catherine, the patron saint of the Italian section. The Chapel of Germany is dedicated to the Epiphany of Christ. The titular paint is by Stefano Erardi, a Maltese painter. On the right side of the church there are the following chapels. The Chapel of Blessed Sacrament was formerly known as the Chapel of Our Lady of Philomos. The titular painting of this chapel is Our Lady of Carafar, which is a copy of Our Lady of Lanciano. Among the knights buried in this chapel there is Fra Gian Francesco Abelard and Fra Flaminio Balbiano. The Chapel of Auvergne is dedicated to Saint Sebastian. The only monument in this chapel is that of Fra Annette de Clermont. The Chapel of Aragon is dedicated to Saint George. The titular painting was painted by Mattia Preta and it is considered as one of his masterpieces. In this chapel, one can find the monuments of the following Grand Masters: Fra Martin de Redon, Fra Raphael Cotona, Fra Nicholas Cotona, Fra Ramon Perellos, the Chapel of Castile, Leon, and Portugal dedicated to James the Greater. The monuments in this chapel are those of Grand Masters Fra Antonio Manuel de Villena and Fra Manuel Pinto da Fonseca. Other works of art. The painting depicting the beheading of Saint John the Baptist by Caravaggio is the most famous work in the church. Considered one of Caravaggio's masterpieces and the only painting signed by the painter. The canvas is displayed in the oratory for which it was painted, restored in the late 1990s in Florence. This painting is one of Caravaggio's most impressive uses of the chiaroscuro style, for which he is most famous, with a circle of light illuminating the scene of St. John's beheading at the request of Salome. The oratory also houses Caravaggio's St. Jerome III. Another impressive feature of the church is the collection of marble tombstones in the nave in which were buried important knights. The more important knights were placed closer to the front of the church. These tombstones, richly decorated with inlaid marble and with the coats of arms of the knight buried below, as well as images relevant to that knight, often telling a story of triumph in battle, form a rich visual display in the church. Adjoining to the church is the St. John's Co-Cathedral Museum containing art objects. Among the contents of the museum there are the tapestries of Grand Master Fra Ramon Perellos de Rocafull, paintings of the following Grand Masters: Fra John de la Casia, Fra Nicola Cottina and Fra Emmanuel Pinto de Fonseca, painting which were formerly in the side chapel, such as St. George Killing the Dragon by Francesco Potenzano. Visiting. The cathedral is open to visitors from Monday to Friday, 9:30 to 16:30, Saturdays, 9:30 to 12:30, closed on Sunday and public holidays. The entrance fee includes the provision of audio guides with 24 stops. These guides are available to visitors in 6 languages. Other information. St. John's was the conventual church of the Hospitallers. Over time, though, it grew to equal prominence with the Archbishop's Cathedral at Modena. In the 1820s, the Bishop of Malta, whose seat was at Modena, was allowed to use St. John's as an alternative see, and it thus formally became a co-cathedral. The land on which the co-cathedral was built belongs to the government of Malta, and the care of the co-cathedral and museum has been entrusted to the St. John's Co-Cathedral Foundation, whose executive secretary is Dr. Claude P. Busuttil. The curator is Ms. Cynthia de Giorgio, while the project's coordinator is Mr. Dane Munro. The cathedral is listed on the National Inventory of the Cultural Property of the Maltese Islands. Bibliography. Sante Guido, Giuseppe Mantilla, Mattia Preta e la Volta della Chiesa Conventuale di San Giovanni Battista e la Valletta. Documentary Testimonians 1661 to 2011 per il 350 degrees anniversario dell'inizio lavori in I beni culturali. 1903. 3 Maggio Giugno 2011. 7 to 28. Sante Guido, Giuseppe Mantilla, Story di Restauri nella Chiesa Conventuale I San Giovanni e la Valletta. La Cappella di Santa Caterina della Lingua d'Italia e la Committenza del Gran Maestro Gregorio Carafa, Malta, Mid-Sea Books, 2008, 494 p. ISBN 9789932-7-202-1. Sante Guido, Giuseppe Mantilla, Restri Risco Perta di Scultura del Barocco Romana a Malta. Cappellerie per l'Ordine dei Cavalieri di San Giovanni, Malta, Mid-Sea Books Limited, 2005, 144 p. ISBN 99932-7-046-6. Sante Guido, Giuseppe Mantilla, Il Resto del Reliquiario del Braccio di San Giovanni Battista nella Co-Cathedral di la Valletta, in Bollettinoicrns. 7 June 2003. 6-7 Genio December 2003, 33-49. Interior Gallery. The Chapel of Aragon. Recess of the St. John's Co-Cathedral.